It's time again for the Science Bowl.
Zoo Parade for 5. What big teeth the hippo has are actually a pair of these. Science Potpourri for 10. Would a snake most likely eat every day? Every week, Dateline Science for 10. Why are some elephants wearing necklaces these days? Green things for 15.
And now, here's your host, Mr. Z himself, Dave Zarin.
Welcome to the Science Bowl, everybody. This is our science quiz show here in the Prince George's Schools, where we bring together outstanding elementary and middle school students to show us what their scientific literacy is, and you will be amazed. We also invite you to play along with us. This is our 35th year of competition here in Prince George's Schools, and for the first time ever, we don't have students in the studio. I'm in the studio in Landover. All of our students are either at school or in their homes and where they are safe. And we have no buzzers, as we normally do when they're here in the studio, but we give them 50 points just for showing up and looking as good as they do. And we keep our 6 categories that we've had all these years the same. Those categories, if you're not familiar with them, are these.
Okay, Mr. Z, here's today's categories. Green things, questions about plants and all things green and growing. Zoo Parade, a Noah's Ark of questions about animals. Body systems, we'll see how much you know about yourself, about things like breathing and growing and digesting your food. Let's get physical. Questions that test your knowledge of physics and chemistry, earth science and space science. Then there's Science Potpourri. Here's a grab bag of science questions, everything from air pollution to the kitchen sink. And finally, Dateline Science. We'll ask you about science history and science in the news.
Our 2 teams will each receive 18 questions, 9 in the first round, 9 in the second. We'll take a little break and talk to them about themselves and their schools, and then we'll bring them all back at the end to share what the game has been like. As I like to tell them, they all win just by being here. They're great ambassadors for their schools. It's time now to meet our first team from Mary Harris Mother Jones Elementary School over in Adelphi. And would you please say hello to Jason. Jason, would you wave to everybody at home, please? Hey, Jason, he's a 4th grader. We have another 4th grader here, Alexander. Hey, Alexander. Give a nice wave to everybody at home. Thank you. And William, nice to have you with us too. Hey, William, give us a smile and a wave. Thank you. All right, guys, it's time to play the game. Our first category is the green things questions, all about plants. There's a 5-point question, one worth 15 and one worth 25. Easy, tougher, toughest yet. Play well, talk to each other. Here we go. For 5 points in green things. There is a brand of frozen vegetables called the Green Giant vegetables. And their symbol is a big man. He looks like part man and part asparagus spear, known as the Jolly Green Giant. Well, if the Jolly Green Giant's blood is green, it's probably due to this pigment.
Which we all know.
Well, it's yeah. How about you, William?
Think about it.
You know, normally you know that plants are green because they have a substance called chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is what makes plants green, and that would probably be what would make the blood in this Jolly Green Giant green. So the correct answer there was chlorophyll. For 15 points. This part of the plant that contains the xylem and phloem tubes has the same name as the acronym that describes the 4 subjects you now study together in science. What are those 4 letters?
May you repeat it?
So instead of the science fair now, we call it this fair that has the same name as the part of the plant that contains the xylem and the phloem tubes.
It's 4 letters. Jason?
I think it might start with Maybe an A?
No, I know you heard this, guys. It's called STEM. S-T-E-M. Come on, guys, what does the S stand for? Tell me.
STEM.
STEM.
STEM's for science. It stands for science. S is science. T stands for technology. E stands for engineering. And what does M stand for? Math. Math. Science, technology, engineering, math. STEM. So STEM is, they call that an acronym where you have letters that means that are different words, and then that's the main part of the plant that contains the tubes where the water and the food go up and down. All right, let's try the 25-point question. White oak trees have evolved right along with pests like caterpillars. In fact, an oak can feed over 500 species of caterpillars and still have enough leaves left over to do this, the process whereby plants make food.
Migrate.
Okay, so we need the name of the process that plants use to make food. They need their leaves to do it. And even though caterpillars oftentimes eat a lot of leaves, there's still enough leaves left for the plant to survive by what process? If you watch Science Ball, we have this as an answer many, many times.
What do you think, Jason?
It's a big, long word. Big, long word. Have you heard of photosynthesis? That's where the plant takes carbon dioxide and water from the air. And what does the plant make that we need?
Oxygen.
Yeah, that's right. That's that photosynthesis. All right, let's see if you can do better with the zoo parade questions. Here's the 5-point question. This bird that is always associated with something called extinction, where animals disappear from Earth. This bird that is often associated with extinction lived on a tiny island in the Indian Ocean. And if you watch the movies called the Ice Age movies, with the saber-toothed tiger and the mammoth and the mastodon, this bird was shown as being not the smartest of animals, and one that in real life went extinct. Have you ever heard of a dodo? A dodo bird, it looked like a big, big pigeon, and it lived on an island where there was nothing that ate it. So when sailors came to this island, the birds weren't afraid, and the sailors, they just killed them for food, and before you know it, they were all gone. So they are often thought of as what could happen to a lot of animals on the planet. They could go extinct. All right, let's try the 15-point question in Zoo Parade. All right. You know that insects, they hatch from eggs, and then they go through different steps called metamorphosis. Like, you know, the butterfly starts as an egg, then it ends up as a beautiful butterfly. Well, some insects like grasshoppers, they're not like butterflies. They don't go through separate steps like the egg and the larva and then the pupa and then the adult. They go through stages where the little grasshoppers just get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. They are different forms of this N-initialed stage. What do we call those kinds of stages when an insect develops that doesn't go through the traditional egg, larva, pupa, adult? They go from egg to this N-initial stage, keeps getting bigger, then becomes an adult.
Let's also think of
I think it's
They call that thing a nymph, N-Y-M-P-H, a nymph. So you see little nymphs, they get bigger and bigger and bigger, but they're not larvae, they're not pupa, they don't form a cocoon like butterflies do. Maybe your teachers have taught you about metamorphosis and those different stages of an insect's life. All right, for 25 points, I want to show you a picture. I want to show you a picture of a lobster. Animals that have 4 legs or 4 appendages, like a lizard or a lion or a horse, yeah, they all have 4. But this lobster has 10. If you're sitting there and you're looking, you can count them. 1, 2, 3, 4. The 5th one is that you can see it up near the front, then has those big claws, and then 5 more on the other side. Now, an animal that has 4 limbs, like a horse, 4 legs, it's called a tetrapod. Tetra means 4, pod means legs. Tetrapod. So if you have 10 legs, like this lobster, what would the prefix be? It would be what pod? What kind of pod? If you know your prefixes and suffixes, what word says 10? Like in 10 years, 10 years. If you know what 10 years is called, you'll know what this prefix is. You know, 10 years is called a decade, So lobsters are known as decapods. Decapods, that's 10 legs. Let's try your body system questions. This made big news. It was amazing. There was a man who was really badly injured in a car accident. And he got, for the first time ever, one of these T-initialed procedures where he got a new face from somebody else and new hands from somebody else. When you get organs, in this case a face and hands from somebody else, for you, the surgeon gives them to you. What is that known as?
A transplant.
A transplant, exactly right. Good, you got those 5 points. Good work, guys. All right, for 15 points. Your funny bone. Have you ever hit your elbow? Whoa, and your arm it goes numb for a couple minutes. That's called like the funny bone. Your funny bone is actually this long arm bone with what funny name?
Is it femur?
Femur, femur is a bone. But that long bone up here in your arm is called the humerus. Like something that is funny is humorous. It's called the humerus bone, even though it's spelled a little differently. All right, last question for you in the opening round is a multiple choice. So I'm going to ask you something, and then you'll have 3 choices to make. So see if you can get this one. If your heart is fibrillating, is it beating too fast, beating too slow, or beating irregularly? In your school, you might see something on the wall. It's a defibrillator, what you can use if someone is having a heart attack. All right, so what would you use that defibrillator to do? If the heart is fibrillating, is it beating too fast, too slow, or irregularly? William, you tell me now which of the 3 you think it is. Irregular. All right, how about Alexander? What do you think?
I think it is really fast.
Really fast. And then how about Jason? You're our captain. Too fast, too slow, or irregularly?
I think it might be too slow.
Too slow. Okay, since we have one of each, Jason, you have to pick. We're back at the beginning here. Too fast, too slow, or irregularly? Captain, tell me now.
Too slow.
Too slow. Actually, it's when the heart is shaking. It's beating irregularly. So they shock it, and then it shocks it back into a regular beat. So that's something you need to know about. It's like CPR, you should know, like someone has a heart attack, where you have to press on their chest. And if someone is having a heart attack, go in your building and find that defibrillator, which is a paddle that helps you to shock the heart to start at the beat again. You can save a life. So at the end of this first round now, Mother Jones, you have 55 points. So we're going to send you into the waiting room. We'll bring you back in a few moments, ask you your next 9 questions, and talk to you a little bit about yourselves and your schools. It is now time to meet the team from Ridgecrest Elementary School. They're all 5th graders. Let's say hello first to the captain, Liana. Liana, would you wave to everybody at home, please? All right, Liana. And Heron, wave to everybody at home. All right, she's got a good smile too. And joining this team, last but not least, is Marcos. Hey, Marcos, give us a nice wave. Thank you, guys. All right, and I know you have a great pair of coaches, Miss Allred, Miss Labrito. And if you are ready, let's start the game. I'm going to give you your first 3 questions from the Green Things category. Here is Green Things for 5 points. Listen carefully. This plant that grows as a round shape with individual bulbs and gives one a distinctive breath is a favorite flavoring, but not for vampires.
Garlic?
Garlic, that's exactly right for 5 points. Yeah, garlic and vampires, nope. That's why they wear it around their neck in the movies. For 15 points, in a number of African countries, the frames of bicycles, you probably have a bicycle. If you do, it's made of metal. But in Africa, the frames of bicycles are made not from metal, but of this plant, one of the fastest growing grasses in the world and the favorite food of pandas.
Bamboo.
Bamboo is right. Yes, indeed. For 25 points, the toughest question in the opening round of the Green Things questions. Seeds of certain coniferous trees are pyrescent. That's spelled P-Y-R-E-S-C-E-N-T, meaning that the pine cones only open and release their seeds when what happens in the forest?
A fire start?
A fire starts. You got it, Marcos, because pyre means fire. Like a pyromaniac, someone who likes to play with matches, a terrible thing. So a forest fire causes those cones to open up. Nice job. You got all 3 right. You got a perfect score so far. Keep it up. Let's go to the zoo. In the Disney movie, The Little Mermaid, some of you might have seen The Little Mermaid. There was an evil sea witch called Ursula, and she had 2 evil sidekicks, Flotsam and Jetsam. They were a pair of these electrifying fish.
Electric eels.
Yes, they were electric eels. They were indeed. Good. For 15 points, in the zoo, when penguins waddle back to their chicks after being away for weeks feeding in the ocean, eating shrimp and other things, they finally get home and they feed their hungry chicks by doing this R-initial thing. Since they don't have grocery bags and they don't have Amazon to deliver, they bring their food back, and then to get it to their kids, what R-initial thing do they have to do?
What do you guys think?
I know that give the food to their mom.
All right, from their mouth. Give me a term. What would that be called?
Vomiting?
Another term for vomiting. It's not quite vomiting. It's called regurgitating. They regurgitate, which is a little different from vomit because this is the food that they've been storing up for their youngsters. That was a good try. All right, here's a 25-point question in the Zoo Parade category, and it is a visual. Look at this picture. Some of you know what meerkats are. Meerkats, those are African mammals that they look like tall prairie dogs. Actually, meerkats are related to what other mammals, like you see here, that can famously outwit a cobra and save the day in the story Rikki Tikki Tavi when 2 cobras tried to attack a baby.
A squirrel?
Not a squirrel.
A jumping rat?
Not a jumping rat.
Kangaroo.
Those are good tries. It's a mongoose. A mongoose. Rikki Tikki Tavi was a mongoose, and if you watch him, it is so fast that when a cobra tries to strike, the mongoose can always, take evasive action and ends up oftentimes killing the cobra for its dinner. Let's go to the body system. Skiers discover that at elevations over 2,500 feet, because they're up on a mountain, the little hairs inside this pair of openings on your face will start to freeze. I certainly can. If you're a skier high up on a mountain, over 2,500 feet up, the little hairs inside this pair of openings on your face will start to freeze.
What do you think?
I was thinking like your hair.
We're talking about the hair in your nostrils. You're breathing in the cold air. It's so cold, you're up on the mountain, and those little hairs start to freeze in your nostrils. For 15 points, let's try this. Each of your feet, your feet have more bones than any place else in your body. In addition to bones and tendons and ligaments, has 4 of these, which can fall if you're on your feet a lot. It's the same word that describes the soaring monument in St. Louis that's the gateway to the West. It's a shape.
What do you guys think?
I have
No idea. You know, some people, they have flat feet because their arches have fallen arches. And in St. Louis, there's a big arch next to the Mississippi River. You can take a cable car, you can take an elevator up to the top. It's beautiful. It's like their version of the Washington Monument, the gateway to the West when the pioneers went out there. So arches are in your feet, which is why you want to wear good shoes. Don't wear flip-flops all the time because you get no arch support. You don't want to end up with flat feet. Let's go to body systems for 25. This is a multiple choice question. Would you go to a doctor whose specialty is pulmonology? Pulmonology. The doctor is a pulmonologist. Would you go to see him or her if your heart is beating erratically, if your head is throbbing, or you can't stop coughing? An erratic heartbeat, a throbbing head, or not able to stop coughing. A pulmonologist would be able to help you with one of those things. All right, Heron, tell me now which one you think it is.
Can't stop coughing.
Can't stop coughing. How about you, Marcos? You weigh in, please.
The first one.
The third one. Can't stop
The
coughing.
first.
The first one. The first one is, all right, your heart beating erratically. All right, and Liana, your turn.
Can you please tell me the options again?
This pulmonologist, a doctor that would treat you if your heart was beating erratically. Marcos thinks that's it. If your head is throbbing, or if you can't stop coughing. And Heron thought that one was the one. You get to choose. You're the captain. Which one do you pick?
I agree with you. Can't stop coughing.
Can't stop coughing? Is right. 25 points. That's the way to do it. Which means that Ridgecrest ends the round with 125 points, and we'll see them again in just a few moments. All right, it's now time to talk to the team from Mary Harris Mother Jones, all 4th graders here, and doing a good job on the program here. Some tough questions, and it's tough to get used to this by the time you're completely comfortable because I've never done this before. The game is over, so it's a real challenge for them, and we're encouraging them as we go along. Let's find out about each of them here at Mother Jones. Jason, tell me a little bit about yourself. What would you like to do someday when you get older?
Like a job?
Okay, got your microphone in place there. So again, when you grow up, are you thinking about being a scientist or a game designer? What would you like to do?
In the military.
In the military, that's great. Now, would you be following a tradition? Are other people in your family in the military?
No.
No, you'd be the first one, so you'd be a trailblazer. That's a challenge. Good luck to you, young man, and good luck in the second half here. Let's talk to your teammates. Where's Alexander? Hey, Alexander, come on up and let's see you. So you're a fourth grader. Why did you want to do this? Why did you want to be on the Science Bowl?
Well, because I want to learn more, and I think that's it.
Yeah, well, that's good. We are hoping that you're learning more here today and that you'll be sharing some of the things you already know because you're very young. And have you thought yet about your future, about what you might want to do when you grow up?
I want to be a paleontologist.
A paleontologist? Wow, so you're a dinosaur guy, huh?
Yes.
Yeah, the T-Rex and the Triceratops and the Jurassic Parks. Oh, yeah. So you'll be out there digging for dinosaur bones. Good luck. Sounds like a fun life ahead for you. And let's talk to the last member of the team here, William. Hey, William. William, you're fading on there. Don't go too low on us. Tell us about yourself. What do you like to do in your spare time, William?
Well, I usually like but that life is ruined. But now I climb trees and
Wow.
I could do a lot more.
That's great. Sports is great and climbing trees. Yeah, be careful when you're climbing trees. When I was your age, I fell out and broke my elbow. So, just be careful when you're, always choose trees, as you know, with some strong looking limbs. All right. What do you want to do when you get older?
Well, I want to be a police officer.
Police officer. Yeah, well, that's as we know, a risky job these days. And just be safe out there. And I know you'll be good at that. And science helps. Science helps to be a good police officer, so I hope you learn some things today and in school that will help you in that career. All right, here we go, guys. As we get into the second half, let's get physical questions. The first one is worth 5 points. When an object falls from a great height at a rate of 32 feet per second squared, it is obeying the law of this. What causes things to fall? The law of what?
Gravity?
Gravity, exactly right. Yeah, we can't defeat gravity. Good answer. Got yourself 5 points. Next is a multiple choice question. This will see how much you know about geography. We're here in Washington, D.C. Let's see if you can figure this out. Acid rain. Rain that contains acid and can eat away even its stone, which blows toward New York City from places like Ohio and Michigan, has wiped out all of the carvings on one side of this big stone obelisk in New York City called the Egyptian obelisk in Central Park. So one side of this thing that looks like a little Washington monument, all the other sides have writing on, but the writing on one side has been removed by this acid rain that's fallen on it for years and years. What side is now blank? The side facing east, west, or north?
North.
Okay, where's my captain here? My captain is Jason. Jason, what do you think?
Maybe north?
Maybe north, okay. Correct answer here is west. West, because wind comes from the west to the east, and Ohio and Michigan, they're the places where the acid rain forms, where there are a lot of factories, and it blows this way. So something facing the winds coming from the west would be wiped out. Let's try 25 points, and let's get physical. Unlike snow and sleet and freezing rain, all of which fall from the sky. Yeah? Sleet comes down, rain comes down, snow comes down, but fog and mist, they don't come down. So the weathermen on TV don't say that this is a form of what P-initialed thing?
What do we all know? Alexander, do you know?
I know you know this word, guys. It's called precipitation. Precipitation is snow and rain that comes out of the sky, freezing rain, sleet. But fog and mist, since they don't come from the sky, they're not considered forms of precipitation. All right, let's try potpourri for 5 points. People who stretch their necks to see what's happening. You know, you're in the car, and unfortunately there's an accident. Everybody wants to look. Everybody wants to look. Or you're at a ball game and you can't see, and you're going like this to try to look around the person in front of you. People like that are said to act as if their necks are made of this substance, made from the latex, a kind of sap from a tropical tree. Rubber. They're said to rubberneck. Your rubberneck when you do this. Even though your neck is not made of rubber, it seems to be that it is when you're trying to gain a little extra vantage point. For 15 points. You know, if you ever go into a theater and there's a live play going on, might have happened at Mother Jones. Maybe they put on a play. Do they ever put on plays on a stage at Mother Jones?
Yes.
Okay. Well, people who are actors, the people in those roles, before they go on, you never tell them, you never say, good luck. In theater, you say, break a leg. Break a leg. That is the version of good luck. So, if someone tells an actor going on the stage to break a leg, they're really wishing them luck, not hoping that they'll suffer a compound what? What's another name for a broken bone?
Alexander, what do you know about that?
They call it a fracture, like a compound fracture. Some of you may remember that quarterback on the Washington Redskins, Alex Smith, who was so badly injured. Remember, he broke his leg and it came out through the skin. That's a compound fracture. If you fall out of a tree, William, hopefully you would never have a compound fracture. A simple fracture is a broken bone, but it doesn't break through the skin. It's still a broken bone. You're still going to have to wear a cast, but it's not as serious as when those bones break and come through the skin. So it's fracture was your answer. All right, for 25 points, potpourri, here's a multiple choice. There's a beautiful bird called a barn owl. It has a big saucer-like face, like a satellite dish. Well, that barn owl is trying to pick up the sound of mice and rats. They are so good, they can hear a mouse running underneath the snow. Their hearing is that good. Because of that dish, all of the sound waves are focused. That shape, and if you watch football games, they have those on the side. They're trying to pick up noise. Is it the shape of a parabola? Look at me, William, when I'm talking. Is it a parabola? Maybe this will sound familiar to you. A parabola, a parallelogram, or a trapezoid? Which of those three words sounds like something you might have heard for a dish that picks up signals and focuses them? A parabola, a parallelogram, or a trapezoid? What do you think, Jason? Jason, what do you think?
I think it might be parallelogram.
Parallelogram. How about you, Alexander?
Parallelogram.
Parallelogram. And how about you, William?
Parallelogram.
Everyone's on the parallelogram bandwagon here. Actually, it was the first one. It's called a parabola. A parabola. If you go home, when you're finished here, Google barn owl, and you'll see that wonderful face that lets him hear all those tiny sounds that those mice make. All right, we have 3 more questions for you in Dateline. Here's your 5-point question. I hope you'll get this one right. We've heard so much about it. The new Johnson & Johnson variety of this has less efficacy at protecting against the coronavirus than the Pfizer and the Moderna varieties. Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, and Moderna are all different varieties of what?
May you repeat it?
If you've been looking at the news, because we're in the middle of the pandemic here, many people are excited about these medicines. One is made by a company called Johnson & Johnson, another by a company called Pfizer, and another by a company called Moderna. They all make different kinds of what?
Nose sprays.
No. How many of you have seen those pictures on TV of people having things stuck in their arm? Have you seen that on TV? They're getting a vaccine. They're getting a vaccine so that they don't get COVID-19. Okay, let's try your 15-point question. Boy, this was amazing. They recently found the world's tiniest reptile. Tiny, 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 on the island of Madagascar. It's only 13 millimeters long. It's a chameleon. They've given it a name. Its prefix is this kind of chameleon, a prefix that means 1/billionth.
May you repeat it?
What is a prefix that means 1/billionth? And they're using it to describe this tiny, tiny chameleon that they found in Madagascar, the world's tiniest reptile. Have you ever heard of something that is nano? Nano. Nano, N-A-N-O, means 1/billionth. It means something very tiny. All right, here's the last question for you in the game. The doctor who discovered chemotherapy to treat cancer patients first saved the lives of children who had leukemia by giving them more of these blood-clotting blood components. It begins with the letter P. What are the little things in your blood? If you cut yourself, you stop bleeding. You don't just keep bleeding until all your blood's gone. What are those little P initial things in your blood that help your blood to clot so you don't bleed to death? Have you ever heard of that before? They sound like, the name sounds like little dishes. They're called platelets. 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 So you'll end the game with 60 points. Mother Jones, and we will be back with you and the other team in just a few moments, guys. Thanks for playing our game. It is now time to bring back the team from Ridgecrest Elementary School, find out a little bit about these young people and what they like to do in their spare time, maybe what they will like to do when they get older. Let's go to the captain first at Ridgecrest, Liana. Liana, tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do in your spare time?
I like to make things and also
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, because it's hard to occupy yourself during this pandemic. We are all so tired of being indoors and restricted and wearing masks. What do you want to do someday, young lady?
I want to be a scientist or a doctor.
Scientist or a doctor. And in fact, scientists and doctors are pretty much one and the same. If you're a doctor, you have to know a lot about science and STEM, and obviously you know a lot about science. Nice to have you here today. Let's talk to your teammates. Where is Heron? Heron, come on back up. And I love that you are so excited to be on this show today. Why did you want to do this?
I like science a lot, and I want to bring science like in my daily life so I know more about it.
Boy, I love that. Because science is not just something you learn in class, it is daily life. When something goes wrong at your house, when you're not feeling well, if you know something about science, you don't panic. You think it through, and you understand some of the things you've learned. What do you want to do someday? Would you like to be a professional scientist?
I want to be like a soccer player or an astronaut.
Wow. So you're an athletic young lady because soccer, you got to run around and you got to be in shape to be an astronaut. So you're doing that. Maybe one day we'll see you go back to the moon for the United States or even travel to Mars. Good luck to you. You're a nice young lady. Let's talk to the other teammate here, and that would be Marcos. Marcos, you seem to know science backwards and forwards. How do you know so much?
It's been our family. I just
He's just smart, folks. He just knows it. Because you're obviously a good student, and you retain things, and you're a curious young man. What do you hope to do someday?
I want to be a teacher or a
Sir, I heard teacher, and what else?
I said
Ah, great, great. Well, I like your determination. You have a good work ethic, and I know you're going to be successful at whatever you end up doing. You got lots of time to really decide about that. And here we go. We have 9 more questions for you. 3 from Let's Get Physical, 3 from Potpourri, and 3 from Dateline. So if you're ready, here is your first 5-point question in Let's Get Physical, and it is a multiple choice. If you go to the dentist and you're nervous, the doctor will give you something called laughing gas. That laughing gas, is it actually nitrous oxide, hydrogen sulfide, or stannous fluoride? Laughing gas, is it nitrous oxide, hydrogen sulfide, or stannous fluoride? Somebody guess.
Stannous fluoride.
All right, we got a stannous fluoride. All right, ladies, hair on. What do you think?
Stannous fluoride.
Stannous fluoride. All right, stannous fluoride is actually something you find in toothpaste. Laughing gas has the formula NO nitrous oxide, N2O. So let's get the next one for 15 points. A remote file storage option has the same name as what atmospheric formations with names like cumulonimbus and stratus. Those are 2 kinds of what?
Clouds.
Clouds, that's right, because you know things you can store on the cloud, and we have clouds in the air. Good answer. 25 points, and let's get physical. While water can be distilled and foods processed, things like oil and sugar and iron ore are changed to make them more user-friendly by this R-initialed process. For instance, in Texas, you can see for miles and miles big metal tanks where oil goes through this process.
What do you guys?
Begins with an R. Water is distilled, food is processed, and oil and sugar are refined. They're refined. That's the correct answer there. Let's go to Potpourri for 5 points. Sometimes called an alligator pear, if you look at its outer skin, you can see why. It is the main fruit used in making guacamole, a favorite dip at Super Bowl parties. Avocado, absolutely right. For 15 points is a picture. Let's show you the picture. Both a constellation called Cygnus and a nebula are named for what graceful bird that also stars in the Hans Christian Andersen story of the ugly duckling?
A swan.
A swan, that's right. The ugly duckling grows up to be a swan. All right, Marcos, you are the man. Good answer. For 25 points. Here be dragons were the words that once appeared on ancient maps to warn explorers to steer clear. But today, those words, here be dragons, are true if you're on a ship approaching what? Indonesian island.
What do you guys think?
Guyana.
I know you've heard of these. They look like leftover dinosaurs. They're called Komodo dragons. The island of Komodo is the only place on Earth where you find them. All right, let's move on to Dateline for 5 points. The coronavirus continues to mutate, leading to different forms called these, like the Brazil one, the UK one, and the South African one. Those mutated kinds of coronaviruses are known by what name? Different whats?
Different viruses.
They are different viruses. They call them different variants, V-A-R-I-A-N-T-S, or different strains, variants or strains. Let's try your 15-point question. One of these sheets of ice broke off in India recently, triggering a mudslide and a flood that wiped out downstream villages. Sheet of ice broke off. Name that sheet of ice.
A glacier.
A glacier, you got it. Good answer. Last question for you in the game. During the Super Bowl, General Motors had a commercial. There was an actor who was really upset that the country of Norway had more electric cars than this country. General Motors has promised that all cars and trucks will be electric by the year 2035. Thanks to one of these energy sources under the hood. They're going to call theirs Ultium, U-L-T-I-U-M. What energy source is going to keep all cars electric? Under the hood.
A battery.
A battery, exactly. They're going to have those charging stations so you could recharge that battery. Nicely done. You got those 25 points. You end with 200 points. You should feel really good about yourselves. These were tough questions, and you came through like champs. We hope you enjoyed today's game. We had some very young students here and some very difficult questions, but they did very well. And we hope they and you learned something by watching today's Science Bowl. Accepting a challenge like this is not for the faint of heart. They did not have to do this, but like all good students, they want challenges and they want to grow and they want to learn. And they did that today, and we're proud of each and every one of them. Our final tally today is Mother Jones, 60, Ridgecrest, 200 points. So Ridgecrest, you will be back to play Dodge Park in the next round and hopefully advance even up to the semifinals as we come to the end of this year's competition. So I'd like to thank our coaches, Miss Allred, Miss Lobrito from Ridgecrest, Miss Taylor, and Mr. Kamen from Mother Jones. And if you're an alternate out there, can you all wave to us? Say, alternates, thank you for being part of our game here, and our wonderful players, Liana, Heron, Marcos, Jason, Alexander, and William. Thank you all for being here today. Thank you for joining us, and I hope to see you on another edition of Science Bowl real soon. Until then, I'm Dave Zarin. Bye-bye, everybody.